the moon that was never there. Hello again, dear listener, and welcome back to the Sleepy Atom. Tonight we're letting go of gravity and wondering what would happen if something familiar, something comforting, was never there at all. What if the moon had never existed? No glowing disk above your window, no tides to pull the sea in and out, no gentle orbit to steady the earth beneath your feet. It's a strange question, but one that reveals so much about the world we do know. So as you lie back and close your eyes, let's imagine a sky with no moonrise. Just stars blinking in the dark and a quiet planet trying to spin on its own. We won't rush through. We'll wander gently, one thought at a time. Tonight's journey isn't really about astronomy, it's about curiosity. It's about how something we barely think about, like the moon, could be silently shaping everything. So tuck in, loosen your shoulders, and let's take a soft, slow walk through the universe that might have been, if the moon never showed up, the moon over your window. If you've ever gazed out the window on a still night, you've probably seen it, the moon just floating there, like a thought caught in mid-air. Its light isn't bright like the sun, but it doesn't try to be. It's quiet, borrowed light, the kind that makes shadows stretch softly across a bedroom wall, or turns waves silver for a moment before pulling them back into the dark. Now, imagine looking up, and nothing's there. No glow, no gentle face, just stars scattered like dust. It's not wrong, it's just lonelier somehow. The moon has always been with us, long before cities, long before clocks, even before language. It was simply there, following the earth, marking time not with numbers, but with rhythm. A changing shape in the sky, constant in its cycle. If it had never risen, how different might we be? You might think a missing moon is just a missing view, but the truth is, it would be like pulling the rhythm out of a song. The melody might still play, but it would feel incomplete. It would feel like something's always missing, even if we never had the words to name it. A planet with no moon. Let's imagine Earth again, but from space this time. A blue marble spinning in the dark, surrounded by silence. The continents still drift, the clouds still swirl, but beside it, nothing orbits. No glowing companion circling in silence. The Earth was never promised a moon. It came to us by chance, perhaps from a violent collision in the early solar system. Without that cosmic accident, Earth would still be here, but it wouldn't be quite the same. You see, the moon doesn't just decorate our nights. It pulls at our oceans. It slows down our spin. It keeps our planet from wobbling too wildly. Without it, Earth might tilt like a drunken top, spinning faster, tumbling through unpredictable seasons. And what about the oceans? Without lunar tides, they'd lose their rhythm. Waves would still come, but not in that gentle push and pull, not in the way that shaped coastlines or stirred the soup of life. It's strange, isn't it, how something so far away that you can blot out with a thumb could shape something as vast and permanent as a planet. But the moon does. And if it didn't, everything would feel a little more chaotic. The moon's origin. To understand what we'd lose, we first have to know how we got the moon in the first place. Long ago, about 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth was still young, hot and forming. Then, something massive happened. A Mars-sized object we now call Theia slammed into the Earth, and for a moment everything was chaos. Out of that fiery collision, a cloud of molten rock and vapour formed. It circled the Earth, cooling, clumping, until finally it became round and began to orbit. That was the beginning of the moon. But what if that crash never happened? What if Theia missed us? No debris, no satellite, no quiet partner to orbit us forever. Earth would still exist, yes, but it would spin faster. A day might be just 6 to 8 hours long, winds stronger, weather more unpredictable, and life, if it even began, might have taken a very different path. Because the moon didn't just appear, it was born from catastrophe, and then became a calm presence, a quiet counterweight, a reminder that something beautiful can come from something violent, and without it, Earth would be left without a balancing force, forever wobbling in the dark, tides that never were. Have you ever walked barefoot on a beach and watched the waves reach just far enough to kiss your toes? That moment, the tide coming in or out, is a love story between the moon and the sea. But without the moon, the oceans wouldn't have that gentle rhythm. They'd still move, yes. Winds and the sun cause some tides, but not like this. Not with that steady, clock-like pulse. Tides do more than decorate beaches. They mix nutrients, they feed ecosystems, they guide crabs, turtles, and birds. They even influence coral spawning. Entire cycles of life tied to the moon's pull. Without those lunar tides, coastlines might look barren, mudflats wouldn't flood and drain. Sea creatures that time their births to the full moon would have no signal. It's like removing a heartbeat from the ocean. Even land animals, including early humans, followed the tides. We lived near coasts, fed by the ocean's offerings. No moon, and perhaps civilization takes a little longer to start, or never gathers by the shore at all. It's humbling, really. The moon moves oceans, it choreographs life, and if it never existed, the sea would still be vast, but oddly silent. Time without the moon. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the Earth spinning quietly in the void. Now, imagine it spinning twice as fast. Sunrises rushing in like gusts of wind. Nights gone before dreams can settle. Days that last 6 hours, not 24. That's what Earth might have been like without the moon. Because the moon isn't just a satellite, it's a brake. Its gravity slows Earth's rotation little by little, keeping days long and stable. Without it, the planet would have spun too quickly for comfort and stayed that way. Shorter days mean faster weather, stronger winds, harsher storms. It also changes the rhythm of life. Plants need time to grow. Animals need time to hunt, sleep, and learn. Rapid cycles could change how evolution unfolds. And for us, civilization, clocks, calendars, even the shape of sleep, all tied to the length of a day. Without the moon's hand gently slowing the spin, maybe we never build cities at all. So much of what we take for granted, the very idea of morning and night, might feel unfamiliar. In a world that never had a moon, the dance of axis and wobble, Earth doesn't just spin, it tilts. About 23.5 degrees off centre, just enough to give us seasons, with warmer summers and cooler winters. But what keeps that tilt steady, year after year? It's the moon. Without the moon's steady gravitational tug, Earth would wobble unpredictably. Not a gentle sway, but a wild, drunken spin, sometimes shifting by 10 degrees or more over a few million years. That might not sound like much, but even a small shift can flip entire climates upside down. Imagine the Arctic not frozen, but covered in tropical rainforests. Then, a few thousand years later, reversed. Deserts could become icy. Crops that once thrived might vanish. Ancient humans trying to survive would never know which direction the wind would blow. The moon acts like a cosmic hand resting gently on Earth's shoulder, slowing its spin, keeping it from toppling too far in either direction. It's the quiet partner in this planetary dance, and without it, the music might become chaotic. Our ancestors may never have settled. Farmers may have never trusted the seasons, and in a world like that, stability, the kind that gives birth to culture and language, might have been lost in the wind. No moonlight nights. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a night sky without the moon. It's still beautiful, full of stars, distant galaxies, and quiet drifting clouds. But something is missing. There's no glow casting soft shadows, no beam tracing silver on leaves, no familiar face watching from above. Moonlight has always meant safety. Before electricity, it was a natural lantern, lighting the paths of hunters, travellers, and dreamers. Full moons helped people navigate, told them when to harvest, even marked sacred nights across generations. Without it, the night would be darker, and not just visually, but emotionally. Fewer night journeys, fewer stories told beneath its light, perhaps even less wonder in the sky. You see, humans have always looked up. We named the moon. We wrote poems for it. We danced beneath it. Without that gentle presence, some of our earlier songs might have never been sung. Even today, the moonlight reminds us of rhythm, of passing time, of gentle cycles. If it had never been there at all, our nights might have always felt just a little more hollow, a sky without stories. Before books, before history, before written words, we had the sky. And in that sky, the moon was the storyteller, changing shape night after night, rising late, falling early, hiding and returning. It was the first calendar, the first clock, and maybe even the first god. Without the moon, the sky would have still held stars, but fewer stories. The monthly rhythm of waxing and waning would be gone. No crescent to inspire myths, no full moon to mark sacred nights. Ancient cultures wove entire beliefs around the moon. The Maya, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Chinese, all traced meaning into its changing face. They saw rabbits, faces, spirits, and time itself. Without it, what symbols would we have carved into the heavens? Would we still have imagined gods above? Would we still have told tales of wolves howling into the dark, or lovers separated by lunar fate? The moon wasn't just a rock, it was a mirror, a canvas for everything we couldn't explain, and if it had never been there, perhaps wonder would have been harder to find. Seasons in chaos. Every year, like clockwork, Earth gently leans toward the sun, and then away again. That tilt, as we've seen, gives us seasons. Spring blossoms, summer heat, autumn leaves, winter snow. But behind that rhythm is something holding it all together, the moon. Without the moon, Earth's tilt would shift wildly over millions of years. Sometimes it might barely lean at all, no seasons to speak of. Other times it might lean too far, causing ice ages or extreme heat waves where none belonged. Imagine growing up in a world where spring comes every 10 years, or where winter never ends. How do plants survive? How do animals migrate? How does life ever trust what's next? In such a world, evolution itself would have to adapt, or perish. Civilization, dependent on farming and predictability, might have never taken root. We might still be nomads, chasing rare pockets of climate stability. The moon didn't invent seasons, but it made them reliable. Like a gentle hand turning the pages of the year, one by one, always in the right order. Without it, even time might lose its meaning. Life may never begin. It's easy to think life on Earth was inevitable, but was it? Early Earth was a stormy place. Lightning, volcanoes, meteor showers. Somewhere in that chaos life sparked, but it didn't happen in still waters. It needed energy, movement, rhythm, and that's where the moon quietly steps in again. Its gravitational pull stirred the oceans, creating tides, mixing chemicals, exposing life to both air and water. That push and pull may have helped form the first living molecules, on shorelines that were bathed, then revealed, again and again. Without tides, the sea stays still, and stillness is comfort, but not creation. It's movement, gentle chaos that gives birth to life. And if the moon had never pulled on the sea, if the shore had never danced to its rhythm, maybe those first molecules would have stayed silent, never dividing, never crawling, never dreaming. In a very real sense, the moon may have been the midwife of life itself, stabilizing Earth's spin. The Earth doesn't spin perfectly. It wobbles, just a little, like a top losing momentum. But that tiny wobble is enough to change everything over long stretches of time. And the moon has always been there, holding our planet steady. Without the moon, that wobble could become wild. Earth's axis might shift from 0 to 85 degrees over millions of years. That means the equator could someday be where the poles are, and vice versa. Picture Antarctica melting under tropical sun, while the Sahara lies under snow. This isn't some distant science fiction. Mars, which has no large moon to stabilize it, experiences exactly this kind of chaos. Its tilt varies wildly, making its climate unpredictable and volatile over long epochs. Now imagine Earth with that kind of instability. How would forests survive? What would happen to glaciers, deserts, rainforests? Where would people live when climate zones swing like pendulums? Civilization depends on consistency, but without the moon, consistency might never have existed at all. The moon doesn't just light the night, it's Earth's anchor, its silent guardian, always keeping our world just balanced enough to nurture life. Remove it, and the spin begins to slip. No eclipses ever. Have you ever seen a total eclipse? It's one of the rarest, most awe-inspiring sights a person can witness. The moon perfectly covers the sun, casting a sudden night in the middle of day. Birds go quiet, shadows sharpen, time seems to hold its breath. But that miracle only happens because our moon is just the right size and just the right distance from Earth. It's 400 times smaller than the sun, and 400 times closer. That perfect ratio lets it cover the sun like a coin over a flashlight. Without the moon, eclipses, at least the kind we know, would never exist. No diamond rings in the sky, no ancient prophecies, no scientific breakthroughs driven by these cosmic coincidences. Historically, eclipses have inspired everything from fear to discovery. Babylonian priests tracked them. Einstein's theory of relativity was proven during one. Civilizations paused to observe, or to panic. But all of that, gone. If the moon never existed, we'd never have seen the sun blink. It's strange to think such brief events could matter so much, but sometimes it's the temporary things that leave the longest shadows. Animal rhythms disrupted. In the natural world, the moon is more than a nightlight. For countless species, it's a clock, a signal, a rhythm in the sky they can trust. Coral reefs, for example, time their spawning events to the full moon. Once a year, in perfect harmony, entire colonies release their eggs and sperm at once. It's a breathtaking sight, a cosmic bloom of life beneath the waves. Sea turtles use the moon to guide them back to shore. Crabs in some regions migrate by the moon. Even certain insects coordinate their emergence with moon phases. In these subtle ways, the moon guides behavior. It shapes ecosystems without ever touching the ground. Now imagine that quiet influence gone. No signal to spawn, no trigger to migrate. Over time, species could vanish, not because they were hunted, but because they lost the beat of their biological drum. The moon may be silent, but life listens to it, and without that soft voice, some of nature's most ancient dances might have never begun. Human biology and the moon. People like to think they've outgrown nature, that we're beyond the pull of the sky, but the truth is, the moon still whispers to us too. Some researchers believe menstrual cycles were once synchronized with the lunar month. Not exact, not always, but close enough to matter. Early humans may have tracked their bodies by the moon, long before there were calendars. Sleep, too, may shift with the moon's phases. Some studies show people sleep lighter or wake more often around the full moon, even in blackout conditions. Coincidence? Maybe. But our bodies remember what we forget. There's also emotion. Some claim the full moon makes people restless. Emergency rooms sometimes see spikes. Police logs grow busier. Is it biology, belief, or some forgotten rhythm buried deep in our cells? Even birth rates in some regions show subtle lunar trends. Not always, not everywhere, but enough to raise an eyebrow or a quiet sense of wonder. So perhaps the moon doesn't just orbit us, maybe it touches us, softly, in ways we still don't understand. The moon and timekeeping, before digital clocks, before ticking watches, we looked up. The moon was our first calendar. Its phases marked months long before the word month was ever written. Cultures from every corner of the earth carved time into its changing face. Lunar calendars still exist today, in the Islamic world, in traditional Chinese culture, in ancient Hebrew customs. Holidays like Ramadan, Passover, and the Lunar New Year all follow the moon, not the sun. Without the moon, how would time have begun for us? Would we have created a calendar as soon? Would agriculture have taken root without the natural clock above to guide planting and harvest? Even the idea of a month would feel different. The moon made time tangible. You could see it pass. You could measure it with your eyes, not your hands. A clock in the sky, available to all. Without it, time might have felt shapeless, like a long, unmeasured breath. Tides fueling ocean life. When we think of the ocean, we imagine waves, salt, maybe even whales, but beneath the surface lies a quiet engine of life, and part of that engine is the moon. You see, lunar tides don't just move water back and forth like some lazy slosh. They oxygenate the ocean. They mix nutrients. They churn the shallows and stir the depths, feeding entire ecosystems along the way. Tiny creatures, plankton, krill, larval fish, depend on these tides to move. Coastal animals like mussels and clams time their feeding to the tidal clock. Predators, too, have learned to follow the rhythm. Without this constant dance, the ocean's layers might separate and stay that way. Without the moon, the ocean would grow still. The currents would be weaker, less predictable. Nutrients would sink and stay sunk. Oxygen wouldn't reach as far. And the shallows, rich nurseries for sea life, wouldn't be refreshed as often. It's easy to forget the moon's hand in all this. After all, it's so far away. But life in the ocean doesn't forget. Every rising wave, every feeding frenzy, every shimmering reef hums quietly with lunar rhythm. And if the moon were gone, that hum might fall silent. Coral spawning without moonlight. Once a year, under the warm water and the moonlit sky, something magical happens. Corals, those quiet stone-like creatures of the sea, release their eggs and sperm all at once. It's synchronized, it's spectacular, and it's almost always timed. With the full moon, scientists still don't fully understand how they do it. Some believe the moon's gravity signals them. Others say it's the moonlight. Maybe it's both. But whatever it is, it works. And it has worked for millions of years. If the moon were never there, this ritual might have never evolved. No synchronized spawning means fewer chances for fertilization, fewer baby corals. Over time, fewer reefs. And without coral reefs, The ocean loses its cities, fish lose homes, shorelines lose protection, whole ecosystems unravel. These moon-timed events are delicate, rare, and oddly romantic. Picture the entire ocean holding its breath for a single moment, and the moon, like a conductor, waving its baton. Now take away the conductor, and what happens to the song? Without the moon, would we be here? There's a question scientists like to ask, but they usually whisper it. What if life on Earth needed the moon to even begin? It's not a wild thought. In fact, it's gaining weight. The tides, as we've seen, stir the seas and mix the ingredients of life. But there's more. The moon slows the planet's spin. That means longer, gentler days, giving early organisms more time to photosynthesize. And a more stable climate, thanks to the moon, means fewer violent swings that might have wiped out fledgling life before it had a chance. Even plate tectonics may owe something to the moon. Some theories suggest its gravitational stress helped keep the Earth's interior moving, cycling nutrients from deep within to the surface. Without that, maybe evolution stalls. It's impossible to say for sure. Maybe life would have found a different way, maybe not. But when we trace the quiet coincidences that led to you, to us, the moon shows up again and again, not as a loud player, but as a gentle guide, always just off stage, helping life take its first breath. A slippery Earth. Earth doesn't just tilt, it shifts. Its axis wobbles like a spinning coin just before it falls flat. And over thousands of years, those tiny shifts can move climate zones, reshape ecosystems, even bury cities beneath sand or snow. The moon, believe it or not, helps hold Earth steady. Without it, the wobble grows worse. The poles drift. Equatorial regions become unstable, and Earth becomes slippery. What would that feel like to us? Imagine a 1,000-year drought, followed by a flash-frozen age, forests becoming deserts, deserts blooming into forests, all without warning. Climate patterns we couldn't predict. Seasons that no longer align with the sky. This isn't science fiction, it's what happens to planets with no large moons. Mars, for example, experiences chaotic swings in tilt. Sometimes its poles face the sun, sometimes not at all. Its past is written in ice and dust. Without the moon's quiet gravity, Earth might have danced that same chaotic dance. Maybe it still would have birthed life. But it's hard to imagine that life ever building cities, or stories, or civilizations. A slippery planet makes for uncertain routes, and without stability, even the brightest minds might never settle long enough to wonder why the stars shine. The invisible guardian. It floats above us every night, but we hardly think of it as protection. The moon, for all its glow and beauty, serves as a kind of shield, guarding Earth in a way we rarely notice. But when you look closer, you start to see the quiet ways it defends us. Its presence affects Earth's rotation, climate, and tides, but it also helps deflect certain cosmic threats. During meteor showers, for example, the moon absorbs hits meant for Earth. Its pockmarked surface is a history book of impacts. And there's more. The moon's gravitational grip subtly influences the path of near-Earth objects. Its mass changes how space rocks drift. Sometimes, perhaps without us ever knowing, it nudges danger out of the way. Then there's the psychological shield. The moon has given humans comfort, stories, and orientation for thousands of years. It lights paths, inspires dreams, calms minds. In a dark world that matters. It's not flashy. It doesn't wear armor. But the moon guards us in gentle, silent ways. And if it had never been there, Earth might feel just a bit more exposed. Or perhaps we wouldn't have survived long enough to know we were ever vulnerable. The birth of myth and wonder, long before science, before books and cities and clocks, humans looked up, and what they saw most clearly, most often, was the moon, not the stars. Those were cold, distant, too faint to touch. But the moon, it was near. It changed. It glowed and vanished and returned again like magic. To early minds, that meant something. The moon became the first symbol, a goddess in some lands, a god in others. It was a sign of fertility, rebirth, passage, rhythm. The earliest cave carvings include lunar notches, timekeeping scratched in stone by hand and firelight. Without the moon, what would early humans have worshipped? Would they have felt that same deep connection to the sky? No monthly rhythm, no phases to track. The stars don't change fast enough for our short lives. The sun, though powerful, doesn't shift the way the moon does. In some way, the moon may have taught us to look, to observe, to wonder, to imagine something beyond the trees and the hunt. Maybe the moon was the first invitation to dream beyond survival. Take it away, and perhaps myth itself would have taken longer to bloom. Navigation without a night light. For centuries, long before GPS or even compasses, travellers used the moon. It's often overlooked. We hear about Polaris, the North Star, guiding sailors home, but the moon also served as a gentle guide. Its phases and path helped ancient mariners estimate location, track seasons, and plan long voyages. At land too, the moon lit the path. Nomads crossing deserts, traders on footpaths, farmers working early dawn hours or late harvest nights. The moon was their lamp, silent, cool, reliable. Now imagine all of that gone, a sky with no moon. Night travel becomes far riskier. Journeys might slow, expeditions shorten, perhaps entire migration patterns would shift, sticking closer to firelight, safer grounds, shorter steps. The moon's glow gave early humans confidence to explore. Without it, darkness becomes a wall, not a window. Curiosity dims. Exploration slows. The moon didn't move the feet, but maybe it softened the fear beneath them. Romance in the dark. There's something deeply human about moonlight and love. Even today, poets still write of moonlit nights. Painters still chase its glow. Couples still walk under it, hand in hand, feeling like they're part of something timeless. It's not just habit. It's old. Very old. Throughout history, lovers found meaning in the moon. Its cycles matched emotional tides. It watched over secret meetings, whispered promises, nighttime births. The moon became a mirror for human feeling, waxing, waning, glowing quietly when everything else was asleep. But what if it had never existed? Would humans have fallen in love the same way? Would art have been born with the same breath? Would nighttime have felt too lonely, too dark, too empty? Science doesn't track this easily. There are no formulas for affection, no charts for wonder, but we know what the moon evokes in us, and we know what we feel under it. Safe, soft, seen. Remove that subtle warmth, and maybe something delicate inside the human spirit grows colder too. Would we still reach for the stars? There's a strange truth hiding in the history of space exploration. We went to the moon because it was there. The moon wasn't just a goal, it was the goal. A celestial object close enough to touch, but distant enough to challenge. In 1969, humans stepped onto it not just for science, but to prove we could, because it had always hung above us, whispering possibility. If there were no moon, where would we have aimed? Mars? Too far? Venus? Too hostile? Asteroids? Invisible to the naked eye. The moon gave us a visible frontier, a dream we could see from our window. Would the space race have happened without it? Would we have ever learned to leave the atmosphere so soon? The moon may have quietly unlocked the human instinct to look upward, not just with hope, but with action. Without the moon, we still might have gone to space, but maybe not in time to share it with the 20th century. Maybe not at all. Sometimes all it takes is something quietly glowing above your roof to make you wonder what's possible. A world without reflection. The moon does more than shine. It reflects. It reflects the sun's light, but it also reflects us. In its pale glow, we see metaphors, whispers of longing, cycles of growth and loss, beginnings that fade into endings and endings that circle back into beginnings. Without the moon, night would feel flatter, just black. No gentle contrast, no dreamscape, no slow drift between phases to mark the passage of invisible time. Poets might never have written their verses. Painters might never have mixed their silver blue. Photographers would lose their softest filter. Even language would change. We wouldn't say moonstruck or honeymoon or once in a blue moon. You see, the moon didn't just reflect light, it reflected human emotion. It held a quiet mirror to our most delicate parts, the ones we don't always show in daylight. Take it away, and maybe we'd still be here, still thinking, still building, still dreaming. But perhaps we'd feel just a little less like dreamers, and a little more like machines moving through endless dark, the moon and Earth's fiery past. Once upon a time, Earth wasn't calm. It was chaos. Lava seas, skyless nights, mountains folding like waves. Somewhere in that furious young world, a colossal impact happened. A Mars-sized object, Theia, slammed into Earth, and from the wreckage, the moon was born. That's the leading theory. It's not gentle, it's not pretty, but it's cosmic. The moon may be the result of one of the most violent events in our planet's history. And yet, from that chaos came calm. The moon didn't just appear, it helped Earth evolve. It slowed Earth's spin, tugged at the tides, gave the planet a second chance at balance. And oddly, maybe even beauty. No moon might have meant a very different Earth, maybe a faster spinning world with wild storms and unstable tilt. Maybe no oceans that breathe, maybe no atmosphere that holds. It's not certain, but it's worth imagining. Sometimes what seems like destruction creates everything. The moon reminds us of that. It carries the memory of fire, but brings only light. How the moon shaped our sleep. Have you ever noticed how differently you sleep during a full moon? It's not just imagination. Studies show that sleep patterns can shift with lunar phases. People often take longer to fall asleep around full moons. REM cycles change. Dreams become more vivid or more restless. But long before sleep labs and data charts, ancient humans were already adjusting their nights to the moon. More light meant safer travel, longer stories, nighttime hunts. No moon? Sleep came earlier. Life folded into darkness quicker. Over millennia, those rhythms may have shaped our biology, our melatonin, our sense of time, even our emotions. Some cultures still plant and harvest based on moon cycles, because those patterns aren't just poetic, they're biological. Now picture an Earth with no moon, no gentle nightlight to stretch the evenings, no ebb and flow of lunar time. Our sleep might have been deeper, but our nights, colder, emptier, shorter, less connected. The moon isn't just outside the window, it might be inside our minds, inside our genes, gently nudging when we close our eyes. The calendar that never was. We count time in strange ways, days from the sun, years from the orbit, but months? Months belong to the moon. Month comes from Munth, originally based on the 29.5-day lunar cycle. Early calendars followed it closely. Many still do. Islamic, Hebrew, Hindu calendars, all shaped by the moon's pace. No moon, no months. That sounds small, but think deeper. Without months, how would ancient farmers track seasons? How would festivals be timed? Pregnancies, harvests, rituals, birthdays? Our sense of the year would blur. 12 would lose its sacred meaning. Time would feel less divided, less graspable. It's possible we'd use only solar time, but it's also possible our cultural clocks would never align at all. The moon didn't just mark time, it gave us rhythm. That soft pull between beginnings and ends. Without it, time might still pass, but we might not have learned to notice it the same way. The gentle pull of the unknown. What is it about the moon that makes us stare? Even now, after all the missions, the telescopes, the documentaries, we still feel something when it rises. A childlike awe, a stillness, a moment where time softens. Some say it's our instinct, a built-in reverence passed down through generations. Others say it's symbolic, a mirror for our emotions. Or maybe it's just that it reminds us of how small we are and how connected we've always been. Without the moon, night skies would feel harsher, more alien. The stars would still burn, yes, but without the moon's softness, their distance might feel lonelier. The moon gives Earth a sense of relationship, a companion in the dark, a reminder that we're not entirely alone in our little orbit, that even in emptiness, there can be light. Maybe we didn't evolve to survive the moon, but to feel it, to reflect something back. Would the universe feel different? Take away the moon, and Earth becomes quieter, less poetic, more precise. The tides still exist, barely. The days are shorter. The tilt wobbles. Civilization builds, maybe slower. Exploration dims. The ocean breathes less deeply. The sky feels a little less alive. Would we notice something was missing? Would we know something was supposed to be there? It's a hard question. The moon has always been part of the human experience. Without it, we'd be different. Not better, not worse, just shaped by a darker sky, perhaps less romantic, less curious, maybe even less human. The universe would still stretch endlessly, the stars would still blaze, but one quiet glowing orb would be absent from every culture, every child's memory, every whispered wish made after sunset. The universe doesn't need the moon, but maybe we do, not for gravity or time or light alone, but for the stories it lets us tell. The lost classroom in the sky. The moon is more than a rock, it's a blackboard. From the moment humans began to wonder, the moon was there to help explain. Children could learn about phases, light reflection, and gravity just by watching it from the window. It taught without speaking. It showed without pushing. Even modern science has used the moon as a stepping stone. Astronomers use its movement to teach about orbits and eclipses. Physicists reference it when explaining mass and motion. Poets and scientists alike use it to begin a conversation about the universe. Without it, the sky becomes harder to teach. A blank board instead of one filled with soft chalk circles. Explaining gravity gets trickier. Explaining eclipses, they wouldn't exist at all. There would be fewer examples to ground curiosity, and maybe fewer sparks for young minds. One less reason to look up and ask, why does that happen? That small question is the seed of science itself. Sometimes the greatest teachers are silent and far away. The missing muse. So many songs begin with the moon. From ancient chants to soft jazz and slow country music, the moon has been the quiet muse behind melody. It brings mood. It adds feeling. It hangs in the sky like a note waiting to be played. Would music still sound the same without it? Probably not. Not because musicians need the moon to compose, but because art pulls from emotion, and the moon feels. It reflects longing, solitude, passion, peace. Think of how many lyrics whisper about moonlight, about dancing under it, about losing someone beneath it. The moon becomes a symbol, often the only one gentle enough to hold human sadness without breaking. Without that shared symbol, music might have leaned heavier, lost some of its softness. The world of sound may still have bloomed, but perhaps with fewer lullabies and more alarms. Even in silence, the moon seems to hum, and when it's missing, maybe a piece of the world's music goes quiet too. The moon's mirror on emotion. Some nights we stare at the moon, and it stares back. Not literally, of course, but emotionally. The moon gives shape to our feelings in ways that nothing else can. When we're joyful, its light feels like celebration. When we're grieving, it feels like it understands. How strange that a lifeless rock 240,000 miles away can carry such meaning. Yet humans have always seen emotion in it. That's how deeply we connect with patterns, with light, with things that change but return again. Without the moon, nighttime would feel more final, more empty. There would be no emotional anchor in the sky, no soft pulse to remind us we're still in rhythm with something. It's not that we couldn't feel emotion without the moon, but we'd lack a symbol, a companion, something we could project our hearts onto and say, yes, that's how I feel tonight. Sometimes it's not the moon itself, but what we see in it that makes it important. The moon and our future beyond Earth. Here's something to wonder about. What if the moon is our future, not just our past? Right now, space agencies all over the world are planning permanent bases on the moon to study, to learn, and maybe to launch. The moon is seen as the stepping stone to Mars and beyond. Without it, space travel gets much harder. There's no nearby place to test life support, no low-gravity base to build from. Launching directly from Earth to other planets is far more expensive and far more dangerous. The moon gives us a chance to learn slowly, to experiment, to fail safely. It's the cosmic training ground for everything humanity hopes to do next in space. Without it, those dreams remain dreams for longer, riskier, more abstract. The moon gives future explorers something tangible, a dusty start to a grander path. If we are to leave this planet someday, the moon might be the reason we can, what the moon tells us about being human. In the end, the moon is a mirror, not of the world, but of us. It doesn't speak, it doesn't change its mind, but somehow it makes us feel seen. And isn't that the most human thing of all? To be witnessed, even if silently. When the moon rises, we look. When it's full, we pause. When it's gone, we notice. It has become part of our inner world, a quiet friend in the background of every culture, every language, every life. Without it, Earth would still spin. Life would still crawl from the sea. Cities would still rise. But something would be missing, something hard to name. Maybe the moon didn't shape our minds, but it shaped how we express them, how we feel, how we imagine, how we love. The question wasn't just, what if the moon never existed? It's what kind of humans would we be without it? Ancient myths that needed the moon, long before telescopes, before science, before maps in the sky. There were stories. Every ancient civilization had them. Myths of moon gods and moon goddesses, chariots made of silver light, wolves chasing moons across heaven, a glowing eye that watched over the night. These weren't just fantasy, they were structure. They gave people meaning, direction, time, and even justice. The moon wasn't just a rock, it was a character in the story of life. It had emotions, it had moods. It gave rhythm to the unpredictable. Without a moon, what would they have written about? What would they have danced for during harvest? What would they have feared during eclipses, or longed for in absence? Myths are reflections of what people needed to understand. The moon gave them a place to place their hopes, their fears, their gods. No moon, no mirror for myth, no soft target for awe. It's possible the entire shape of early religion would have been different, or less, or missing something sacred. The nights that would be too dark. Close your eyes and imagine a forest at night, without the moon. You step carefully. Each leaf crunches louder. The stars above twinkle coldly, but there's no shape to the sky. You hold your breath, because without that gentle silver glow, the dark feels deeper, closer. The moon isn't just light, it's a kind of reassurance. You can walk by it, navigate by it, find your way home. Even in wild places, even in ancient times, the moon gave a kind of visual trust. Without it, the night becomes a place to hide, not move, a place to fear, not reflect. Creatures would behave differently. Predators might be bolder, prey more hidden. Human activity at night would shrink drastically. Torches only reach a few feet. Stars don't cast shadows. But the moon? The moon wraps a valley in silver. It softens rooftops. It rests on the ocean like silk. Without it, the night would lose its texture, and something inside us might shrink too. The moon's quiet role in creativity, some of the greatest poems ever written, started with a glance at the moon. Artists from ancient China to the French Romantics found something in that slow arc of light that ignited the soul, not because it changed, but because it changed everything around it. Painters captured its glow on water. Writers turned its shape into metaphors. The moon became a symbol of distance, of longing, of hope. And even for those who never named it directly, its light filled their rooms as they worked into the night. Would creativity still flourish without it? Of course, but it might lean more into firelight, into thunder, into sun. The moon gave the night a voice, a silence that whispered inspiration. No moon would mean one less muse, one less reason to look up when feeling stuck, one less companion in the quiet corners of thought. Even in stillness, it helped us feel more. A world without lunar eclipses. There's a hush during a lunar eclipse, have you noticed? The world dims unnaturally. Animals pause, people gather, and that reddish glow covers the moon like a celestial sigh. For a few rare minutes it feels like the sky is doing something, just for us. Without the moon, that moment never happens. No celestial alignment, no awe shared by millions at once, no reminder that we live in a dance of shadows and orbits and light. Eclipses were the basis of early astronomy. They taught humans that the heavens moved with precision, that there was logic in the stars, that even darkness followed rules. Without them, the sky might have seemed more random, more threatening, and scientific understanding, it might have taken centuries longer to bloom. Sometimes a rare event like an eclipse reveals more about our world than years of daylight ever could. The moon's gift. Perspective. Look at the moon from Earth, and it seems small. But look at Earth from the moon, and suddenly we are small. That's what astronauts described during the Apollo missions. That tiny blue marble, fragile and glowing, suspended in blackness. Without the moon, we may never have seen that view. Never had that moment of collective humility. Never realized just how precious Earth is, not from textbooks, but from feeling it in our bones. The moon gave us that perspective. It let us stand on another world, just close enough to still miss home. It framed us in a way nothing else could, a mirror not of our face, but our place. And in that view, humanity softened, boundaries blurred, politics quieted. For a moment we were just one species, on one beautiful sphere. All of it, gifted by the moon, not by its light, but by the shadow it let us cast, and the eyes it let us borrow. Moonlight and the bond between parents and children. There's something ancient about a parent holding their child under moonlight. Long before nightlights or lamps, the moon was the only glow in the room. Mothers would rock their babies with lullabies as that silver light filtered through wooden shutters. Fathers would tell stories by firelight as the moon cast shadows behind them. The moon gave a rhythm to parenting. Bedtime followed its rising. Storytime followed its shape. Even when families had nothing, they had the moon. A light they didn't have to earn, borrow, or burn. It simply showed up, like love should. Without it, maybe we'd still sing, still soothe, still dream. But something would be missing. A softness, a ritual, a shared secret between parent and child that doesn't need words. You might say the moon raised us, just a little, quietly, gently, night after night. The moon has always belonged to lovers. It doesn't matter the century, the culture, the class. Lovers meet beneath it. Proposals happen under it. Poems are written for it. There's something about that steady light in a chaotic world that says, this moment matters. Without it, the night becomes neutral. Dark, yes, but not symbolic. A kiss under clouds feels different than one under a glowing moon. The moon gives permission to feel deeply, to speak softly, to pause longer. It reflects what love does. It doesn't shout, it doesn't flash, it glows. And it makes everything else look more beautiful, even the ordinary. Imagine a world where no one ever looked up and said, "Look at that moon." That phrase has started so many small miracles, so many lifelong bonds, so many gentle confessions. No moon doesn't mean no love, but maybe less magic in how it begins. The moon's role in quiet reflection. Some nights you don't want answers, you just want company. The moon gave that. You could sit on a porch, walk along a beach, or lie in bed near a window, and there it was. Not asking anything, not judging, just being. Without it, silence feels colder, lonelier. The moon fills the gap between solitude and isolation. It's something to talk to when no one else is awake, something to witness your thoughts without interrupting them. People wrote in journals by moonlight, wept in fields, prayed in temples. The moon listened to it all. Even now, it's the same shape above you as it was above ancient kings, monks, artists, wanderers. No moon? We'd still reflect, but maybe more with screens, less with nature, less with ourselves. The moon isn't a therapist, but it helps you hear your own thoughts. Sometimes that's all we need. A little light, a little space, a little reflection. The tides of emotion. We often talk about emotional tides, but have you ever wondered why? The moon controls the actual tides, yes, but it also became our metaphor for feelings. It waxes and wanes. It pulls. It affects what's hidden beneath the surface, just like emotion does. Without the moon, maybe we'd still feel deeply, but would we have the same language to describe it? Would we say, "My heart is full," or "I feel a shift," or "It's just a phase," without seeing it mirrored in the sky? The moon helped us normalize cycles. Not everything has to stay full. Not everything has to stay dark. That simple truth comforted many without them realizing it. Without it, emotions might feel more linear, more like problems than seasons, more like faults than phases. But with it, we remember that even darkness is temporary, and fullness always returns. A world without shared stillness. There's a special kind of moment where two strangers look up at the same moon. They don't need to speak. They don't need to know each other's names. The moon becomes a quiet link between people, a shared stillness, a global pause. It's one of the few things that has ever unified the entire planet. Soldiers wrote letters home mentioning it. Travellers far from home found comfort in it. prisoners stared at it, knowing their loved ones could see the same thing. Without that shared object in the sky, the world feels more fragmented. There's one less thread connecting us, one less pause we all take at the same time. We share the sun, yes, but it rushes us. The moon slows us down. It invites stillness, wonder, grace. That's harder to come by in a world without pause. The moon didn't just light the night, it linked our hearts across continents, across decades, across silence. Moon's role in plant rhythms and night bloomers. The moon doesn't just whisper to oceans, it speaks to flowers too. Some plants bloom only at night, their petals unfolding when the moonlight touches them. They've evolved with its gentle cycle. Moonflowers, night-blooming jasmine, and sacred datura, they open when the world sleeps, guided not by sunlight, but by soft lunar cues. Without the moon, would these flowers still bloom? Perhaps, but likely in smaller numbers. Their natural clocks would lose a key signal. Pollinators like moths would be lost without the pale light that helps them find their way through scented trails. Nature doesn't depend on just one rhythm, it listens to a symphony. The moon is part of that music. A quieter note maybe, but no less vital. Remove it and the composition stumbles. The harmony frays. We think of moonlight as passive, but it actually moves things, silently, gently. And when it's gone, so is a certain kind of wonder that only happens after dark. There's a kind of poetry in the idea that even flowers needed the moon to know when to open their hearts. No moon means a missing anchor for timekeepers. Long before clocks ticked, there was the moon. Its cycle was a calendar in the sky, predictable, steady, easy to track. Civilizations carved stone calendars based on lunar phases. Farmers sowed and harvested according to full moons. Spiritual holidays rose and fell with its return. Without the moon, time would still exist, but it would feel different, more abstract, less connected to something visible. Solar time is long, seasonal time is vast, but the moon's time is personal. You can see it change with your own eyes each week. It gave us units of measure smaller than a year, bigger than a day, something in between, something rhythmic. That helped us plan, prepare, and participate. A cycle that reassured us that time wasn't random, it was beautiful. Without that soft orbiting clock in the sky, our early concept of time might have been slower to form, less poetic, less tuned to the soul. The moon didn't just show time, it felt like time itself, and in many ways it still does. No moon would have changed the course of music. It might sound strange, but the moon helped us hear. Cultures across time wrote songs about the moon. Flutes were played under it. Drums were timed to its phases. The moon gave a tempo to spiritual ceremonies, to romance, to rest. Its cycle brought gatherings, full moon festivals, crescent prayers, dark moon reflections. With gathering comes rhythm, and with rhythm comes music. Songs weren't just for fun, they were how people remembered, healed, worshipped, and fell in love. Without a moon, would we still have music? Of course. But the shape of it would be different. Fewer slow songs, fewer laments about night, less imagery that reaches upward in longing. The moon was a muse not just for poetry but for melody. It influenced lyrics, tone, and the emotion behind the notes. Its phases mirrored our moods, and our moods made their way into sound. Take away the moon, and part of that human longing in music might never have found its voice. The absence of moon-inspired inventions. Sometimes it takes darkness to invent light. The moon inspired the first maps of the sky, the first predictions of eclipses, the first understanding of orbital patterns. It helped early humans look upward on purpose, and that changed everything. Without it, perhaps the stars would still inspire. But the moon was closer, brighter. It was a problem to solve. Why did it change shape? Why did it disappear? Why did it sometimes turn red? That curiosity drove invention. Lunar tracking led to early tools, primitive observatories, even mathematics. The moon became a teacher, and humanity became its attentive student. Without that visible mystery hanging above us nightly, many of those questions may have been delayed by centuries. It's not just what the moon was, it's what it made us want to understand. And understanding gave birth to technology, calendars, navigation, and even stories passed across generations. No moon, no questions. No questions, no invention. The thread is quieter than we realize, but strong enough to hold entire civilizations together. The moon's spiritual echo across all cultures. Whether you're in the Himalayas or the Sahara, someone has looked up at the same moon you have. The moon is woven into every culture's sense of sacredness. Native American tribes honored the snow moon, wolf moon, corn moon. Hindu traditions watch lunar phase thousands of years. The moon shaped life's timing, even if we don't fully understand how. Without the moon, our biology might feel slightly less aligned, maybe more rushed, maybe more erratic. There'd be less rhythm in our rhythms, less signal in our silence. Even our inner clocks would tick a little differently. And that's what makes the moon so mysterious. It didn't just orbit us from the outside, it shaped us from within. The moon and dreams of leaving Earth, before rockets, before astronauts, before telescopes even had names. The moon was the first place we ever wanted to go. It was reachable in the imagination, close enough to point at, mysterious enough to dream about. The idea of up there became possible because something was up there, and it looked back at us, night after night. Without it, space might still be fascinating. But would it be personal? The moon made the sky feel like part of our neighborhood, a stepping stone, a place not just to study, but to visit. It gave our species its first space-based ambition. When Apollo astronauts finally landed, they weren't just exploring, they were fulfilling the oldest human longing, to stand where our ancestors once only gazed. The moon made that longing real. If it never existed, perhaps our curiosity would stay grounded longer. Our questions might still rise, but maybe our courage would take more time to catch up. Sometimes it takes a familiar face in the sky to make the unknown feel worth reaching for. No moon means no tidal meditation. If you've ever sat by the sea and felt your thoughts slow down, you've already met one of the moon's quietest gifts. Tides aren't just waves, they're breath. The ocean inhales and exhales, pulled by the moon's gravity like a patient heartbeat. People have prayed beside those tides, written beside them, sat in silence and let their minds become water. Without the moon, tides would still exist, but fainter, softer, less rhythmic. There'd be fewer places where land and thought meet in a meditative pull-push rhythm. Coastal living would feel different, less tuned, less alive. Those tidal patterns didn't just shape coastlines, they shaped cultures. Myths of water spirits, ritual baths, salt harvests. The ocean became not just a body, but a presence, a voice we could listen to if we slowed down enough. And at the center of it was a moon you never had to pay attention to, for it to shape the way you breathe. How the moon helped us understand shadows. Light creates shadows, but the moon, it made them gentle. In the harsh light of the sun, shadows are sharp, defined, almost aggressive, but moonlight softens edges. It blurs the lines. It teaches us that light and darkness don't always have to fight. They can dance. Without the moon, nighttime shadows would be darker, deeper, harder to navigate. But more than that, the idea of shadows would be different. Moonlight gives us the emotional version of shadow, the poetic, the haunting, the beautiful unknown. Writers described shadows on the soul. Painters captured the soft contrast of light falling through broken windows. Lovers held hands in mooncast silhouettes. These images are familiar because the moon showed us that not all darkness is scary. Without it, maybe our art would be stiffer, our metaphors more extreme. There'd be less space for the in-between, the soft grey places where most of life really happens. And that's what makes moonlight timeless. It never erased the dark, it just gave it meaning. No moon, no echo of home for the lost. Sometimes people get lost, not just in forests, but in life. And strange as it sounds, the moon has always helped them find their way back. Not just literally, but emotionally. Hikers used it to navigate. Sailors read it like a compass. But even more, hearts used it to recenter when the world felt too loud. You could be halfway across the world, missing someone, and the moon would appear above you, whispering, "They can see me too." That tiny thought, it softened loneliness. It shrank the distance. It gave the lost a kind of signal fire in the sky. Without that shared presence, nights might feel colder, more alone. We'd still survive. But would we feel as connected across time zones, generations, memories? The moon gave us a way to feel tethered when nothing else could. It was the light that never locked a door, the glow that never said, "You're too far." No GPS, no call, just a silent echo of home floating above us, always waiting. The moon and the secret geometry of beauty. There's a kind of symmetry in beauty, and sometimes it begins with the sky. Look at the moon's perfect roundness, its graceful phases. These curves, these transitions, they shaped how early humans defined balance. Artists painted circles like full moons. Architects carved arches that mirrored its crescent. Even the shape of jewelry, coins, and temples often echoed lunar forms. Without the moon, would we have felt the same about circles? Would we have valued curves over corners? Nature offers many shapes, but few are as hypnotic, as softly complete as the moon in its fullness. This isn't just about art, it's about how we feel when we see something that seems whole. The moon showed us that wholeness isn't static, it grows, shrinks, hides, and returns. That imperfection is part of balance. Without it, our sense of proportion may have leaned more angular, more fixed, less fluid, less forgiving. Beauty might have become rigid, harder, more mathematical than emotional, and so, in ways we barely realize, the moon may have taught us that true beauty changes shape and still shines. Moonlight and the deep sleep of Earth. Sleep has many triggers, and moonlight may be one of the oldest. For much of Earth's history, nights weren't pitch black. They glowed, soft, pale, sometimes silver blue. That dim light helped set the mood for sleep. Not too bright like fire, not too dark like a cave. Just enough to feel safe, but still surrendered to rest. Even today, sleep studies hint that lunar phases might affect melatonin and dream activity. People report deeper dreams during full moons, and more emotional dreams during new ones. The body listens even when we don't. Without the moon, our nights would be darker, permanently. Cities would light up more. Maybe people would sleep at stranger hours. Maybe our dreams would lose their cycles, their stories, their tides. Sleep isn't just rest, it's repair. It's where the brain resets, the soul wanders, and memories form. The moon didn't cause sleep, but it cradled it, like a quiet guardian outside your window. And when that light is gone, something in us might stay awake longer than it should. Without the moon, no word for loneliness. Language grows from what we see and feel. So many words come from the moon. Lunar, lunacy, month, menstruation, even Monday. But beyond the roots and syllables, the moon gave us the feeling behind many unspoken words: longing, stillness, loneliness. How many songs compare hearts to moons? How many poems begin with someone alone beneath a sky that doesn't speak? The moon became a symbol for those who feel distant, forgotten, waiting. And that symbol gave us language when emotions were too quiet to name. Without it, perhaps we'd still feel alone, but we wouldn't have that image to hold. That silver circle that says, "I see you." That invisible reminder that you're not the only one feeling this way tonight. Loneliness would still exist, but maybe it wouldn't feel as beautiful, or as temporary, or as shared. The moon made sadness poetic, and in doing so, helped it pass through us more gently. The moon and the first stories ever told. Before books, there were shadows on caves and stars in the sky, and among those stars, the moon always stood out, big, bright, constantly changing. Ancient storytellers pointed to it when teaching children. That's where the rabbit lives. That's the mother who watches us. That's the God who keeps time. The moon became a screen for projection, a place to put myths, dreams, warnings, and hope. Every culture wrapped it in stories. Some saw it as a mirror, others as a lover, but it was always someone, never just something. If the moon had never existed, our first stories might have started later, or lacked a face to direct them toward. A night sky without a moon feels more distant, less responsive, like trying to tell a bedtime story without a soft lamp glowing in the corner. The moon didn't just inspire stories, it listened to them, and gave generations a reason to keep imagining what might be up there. A reason to believe that stories are just truths waiting in different forms. What the moon leaves behind, even if it never was. So now, we arrive at the final pause in this dream. What if the moon had never existed? No tides, no night glow, no ancient calendars, no myths, no howling wolves or tidal meditations, no silver silence looking down on us, just stars and blackness and the great expanse. Even then, even without it, humans would still find something to long for, something to follow. We always do, but the journey might be slower, the metaphors harder, the rhythms less gentle, the earth slightly less alive. Because the moon wasn't just a rock in orbit, it was memory, rhythm, softness, and symbol. It connected science to spirit, physics to poetry, earth to sky, and even in a world where it had never risen, part of us might still imagine it anyway, because some things feel needed even before they exist. Maybe that's what the moon really is. Not just a satellite, but a memory of something our hearts were always looking for.